glad I came. Like I said, I would do it again, and again, and again, and as many times as it takes to get a change in the policies and things that they hide constantly.
I'm really glad that the policy was talked about so much today, that it's an actual policy. It's not just a few elders that want to hide things. It comes from higher up.
It's a worldwide policy.
Yeah.
We asked the church for an interview to discuss the claims that they're putting thousands of children at risk. They offered us instead some videotapes.
Well, here we have it, a box full of tapes, in fact. Jehovah's Witnesses response, progressive understanding of paedophilia, education through publications, and one marked policies, and I'm told that's where we should get some answers.
That night we watched the tapes looking for those answers. In long letters the organisation had told us the welfare of children is of paramount concern to them, that they have a forceful child protection policy. We want you to see it spelled out.
We've heard the suggestion that our policies may not be adequate to cover the problem of child molestation, but that's not the case at all.
The policy couldn't be simpler. The elders should deal with all allegations of abuse.
I think that's a very good policy, that the elders, essentially would take charge of the situation of reporting the abuse to the authorities.
But the authorities get told to contact onto police. It's their own legal desk.
Fact of the matter is, we have a very aggressive policy to handle child molestation in the congregation, and it is primarily designed to protect our children.
So how aggressive is it in practice? Just over a year ago, Bill Bowen rang the legal desk in New York, asking how he should handle an allegation of abuse in his congregation. The advice he was given has little to do with protecting the victim. He was told to go back to the man accused.
You just ask him again, now, is there anything to this? If he says no, then I would walk away from it. Yeah. Leave it for Jehovah. He'll bring it out. Yeah. But don't get yourself in a jam.
Leave it for Jehovah. That, according to thousands of victims, is the Jehovah's Witness child protection policy laid bare. No one knows more about that than Sarah Poisson. Holly Brewer and Heather Berry's mother knows her loyalty to the church cost her daughters dearly. Paul Berry, her husband, beat them. She suspected worse, that Heather was being sexually abused, and went to the elders.
I could tell from their looks on their faces that I'd done a bad thing, that I had spoken against my husband, which is a bad thing. And so their solution was that I should be a better wife and I should pray more. That was their solution. That's how I could stop him from battering us. I assumed they were right. They had to be right, because they know everything, because they're God's representatives on earth.
She couldn't convince them, but she was convinced that Paul Berry was sexually abusing their daughter, Heather.
When I was about 3 years old, I started displaying behavior that no 3-year-old in their right mind would display. And I was throwing stools out of 2-story windows, and I was, I went to Boston Children's Medical Hospital in the psychiatric ward when I was 3 because she found me stabbing myself with a screwdriver in the arm in the kitchen. He came to me in the blackened night, hands outstretched. There was no fight. The masked man slowly became familiar with my shape, gently rubbing his hands on me, every nook, cranny, and gate. My child, you are so sweet, so perfect and right. Then I knew nothing but defeat. I tried not to think about the abuse as much as possible. I mean, there was the physical abuse, there was the verbal abuse, and there was the sexual abuse, and when none of it was happening, that was ideal, and that's what I tried to focus on the most.
And all the while, you were going to the Kingdom Hall every Sunday? You were going to meetings during the week?
We were going out door-to-door service.
Time and again, the girls were told to wait outside while their mother begged local elders for help. Time and again, they saw her sent home to pray harder and be a better wife. Holly, too, had her own story to tell, a story she'd kept secret from her mother, a story she knew by now the elders wouldn't want to hear. Her instinct was to tell the local policeman, but after years in the church, she just couldn't.
Holly would actually tell me that she was very angry about things at home, and she did, on more than several occasions, tell me that someday, Sergeant Zeller, I'm going to tell you something that happened to me. And I always told Holly, when you're ready, I'll be there. You know where I am.
Her mother saw the elders more than a dozen times, but remarkably, it never struck Sarah Poisson to look for help outside the church.
You can say that your children's lives are in danger, and in the same breath that you couldn't possibly go to the police. How can that be?
Because God would not want that. It would never have occurred to me. And even if it had, I would not have done it. Because he's a man. He's a baptized male, and he's a ministerial servant, and I was a woman, and they're kids. And that's even worse than being a woman. These things need to stay in this room. I heard that many, many times. You need to pray about it more. I can show you my Bible. It's paper thin. I still have it. It's all worn out. Did a lot of praying.
After you were told them that her father was sexually abusing Heather, nothing changed?
No. Well, yeah, things changed. They got a lot worse for me.
In the end, the decision was taken out of her hands. In school, bruises were noticed on her children. Social workers were told. They gave her a stark choice. Leave your husband, or we take your children. But if she left him, she knew the church would cut her dead.
At that point, I had to make a decision between God and my kids. And I knew, well, at that time I knew, that if I chose my kids, I didn't have a prayer. But I didn't care anymore.